We're talking Cincinnati Bengals, and for good reason, because a lot of news, and for what seems like the first time in months, positive news coming from Cincinnati camp, and that is that the Cincinnati Bengals have agreed to an extension for both their star wide receivers, something that just 2-3 years ago seemed impossible. Obviously, other teams have gotten it, famously the Philadelphia Eagles, who I don't know if you know about the NFL this past year. They won the Super Bowl, and they extended both their star wide receivers last offseason. And I have been on this show in the past, and I asked, I think at the time, we've spent a lot of time talking about the T. Higgins deal, what we're going to do with T. Higgins, franchise tagging on stuff. Always the plan was with JaMarr Chase, because you simply cannot let a future Hall of Famer, a guy that was a Triple Crown winner, a guy that I think if you made a list of people that will be Hall of Famers, he's certainly on a short list. So we always knew that he was going to be here long term. But I think even I was skeptical about the idea of spending what is now $70 million on two skill guys. I was going to say non-essential, but I don't think that's the right nomenclature, because they are essential, because we've seen what they look like when they're both out on the field. Yeah, we've won games without T. Higgins out there.
Losing record, though.
Sure, we've played well offensively without JaMarr. But with them on the field, we know that this isn't a top half of the league offense. We know this isn't a top 10 offense. We know that with JaMarr Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow out on the field, this is an offense that can take you to the heights of this league. That can take you to the Super Bowl. That can take you to the AFC Championship. And even in a year where we didn't make the postseason, go 9-8, you're looking at this offense knowing that if this team had a chance to dance, that they are as threatening as anyone in the league. I think I made a joke to my friends that when the Steelers were playing in the wild card round and the Bengals were eliminated, that I like the Bengals' chances of winning the Super Bowl more. Because there's certain teams that make the postseason that have no threat whatsoever. The Bengals, with this offense, will never be that team. Now, they might not always make the dance. They might not always get there, because we're still trying to figure out how to get it on the other side, how to get it right on the other side. But simply put, when you have a chance to lock up what could be a game-changing offense, when you have a chance to lock up what is an elite offense, what is a Super Bowl caliber offense, side of the ball, you do it. You figure out what the rest of the future holds. You figure out how to figure out this defense, how to make this defense competent enough to win games. When you have something elite, you do not let it go. That's what JaMarr Chase and T. Higgins are. That's what these two paired with Joe Burrow are, and that's exactly what the Cincinnati Bengals front office did. They figured out a way to get all these three under the same roof for the years forward. We drafted Joe Burrow in 2020. We drafted T. Higgins in 2020. We drafted JaMarr Chase in 2021. These are guys that we found. These aren't guys coming from elsewhere. These are guys that came here that are going to be, I don't want to say lifers for the Cincinnati Bengals, but they will be for the near future. There's a reason that when other teams, opposing teams, see us on their schedule, the same way that we look, we got to play the Chiefs this year. The same way we look, we got to play the Bills this year. That's what opposing teams do. That's what opposing defensive coordinators do. We got Joe Burrow week 8. We got T. Higgins and JaMarr Chase week 8. Good luck. We better score a lot of points, because that's what it has to take to beat the Bengals. Like I said, I don't think this is a Super Bowl caliber roster all the way around, anywhere near it, because there's a lot to be told on the defensive side. And there was even reports today that the Bengals are still trying to get Trey Hendrickson locked up here long term. We'll see if that remains to be seen. I'm a little skeptical on that one. I held faith on the JaMarr Chase and T. Higgins, especially just the way that they were talking, the way that T. Higgins got the same agent, all those things, and it's done. So these guys are here. Now we can shift our focus into the next phase. We don't have these things holding over our head anymore. We can go look, all right, how do we solve this defense? All right, who the heck's going to play guard this year? How are we going to protect Joe Burrow? But go ahead, Ellen.
I was just going to say, like, it's an important step that they had to make. We're going to address, the Bengals are going to address the defense. They have to. We know this. They know this. Everybody knows it. The Bengals defense has to be addressed. The Bengals offensive line has to be addressed. But before those things get done, before we know what we have, we had to get these two things done. Joe Burrow asked of it, and those two players are crucial to the success of the Bengals. You can say whatever you want about saving money for the defense. You're betting on other players to come into Cincinnati and take over the mantle on that defense and make it better, right? I'm betting on T. Higgins to be the player that I already know he is. I'm betting JaMarr Chase to be the best wide receiver in the NFL for the Bengals, which I already know he is. Those are safer bets than the other side. We're going to address the other side, but I'm going to bet on every safe bet I can right now. The Trey Hendrickson thing, I get more frustrated talking about Trey Hendrickson than talking about any player in the history of Cincinnati sports. Your agent messed up. Your agent was the one that caused all of this for you, not the Bengals. The Bengals can be blamed for a lot, not for the Trey Hendrickson dilemma. They cannot. I hope they get him back for a year, and to be quite honest, I don't really care if they pay him. He's going to play anyway. And if he wants to sit out and pay fines every game, that's his choice. But the Bengals are going to have Trey Hendrickson play, right? The Bengals know that. They said, hey, Trey, go out and get a trade for yourself. Please, we're begging you. Go get the best deal possible. What did he come back with? Nothing. He's got no leverage now. So if I were the Bengals, in my mind, I know that. I'm like, okay, we don't have anything with him right now. Let's go fix the problem at hand where let's make our number one wide receiver and our number two wide receiver, which make our offense elite. I mean, we can sit here and say that they lose games 55-52. The fact of the matter is we're scoring 52 points. There's not a lot of teams in the NFL that have the offense that the Bengals have. Right. I said it last night. I'd argue it's the best offense in the NFL. So to retain that is very, very, very important. I understand fixing the defense. But in order to fix the defense, we had to know the deals. We had to know what was going to be done with those two. Now that that's done, like Reed just said, we take the next step, and that's going to be focusing on defense. You have the draft in about over a month, which you're going to be focusing on, right? You're going to be focusing on the defensive side of the football. I don't know how many we got 6 picks as of right now. I'd venture to say 4 of those 6 are going to be spent on the defense, maybe 5. And I bet the Bengals draft a guard as well. So saying that, I'm very, very, very happy with what the Bengals did last night. I'm very, very happy because you had to get the first domino to fall to get this whole thing going. Last year, when you lost to the Patriots week 1, it was because of organizational ineptitude. That's why they lost. They didn't come out fast. They didn't come out like they cared because they waited for the JaMarr Chase thing, and I think it boiled over. And I did think it hurt what was going on in that locker room. I firmly believe it did. The less of that heading into next season is of utmost importance because you win that game, you're in the playoffs, and then who knows what we're talking about right now. I don't want to hear about the Bengals being cheap, because they didn't pay Trey Hendrickson. They did everything in their power to extend Trey Hendrickson early. He just didn't like the deal like a day later. Like one day, like 23 hours later, he said, you know what, I want a better deal. It's like, that's not how this works. They're going to get something done with Trey Hendrickson. I firmly believe that. I know Reed said he was kind of a little apprehensive about it. So. I think at this point with these reports, I'm pretty confident that something's going to get done.
I like that they are working through those things. I just think that Trey Hendrickson, his value, and I think he's earned the value. He's seen around the league. He led the league in sacks last year on a defensive line that. They could put all their focus on Trey Hendrickson because he was the only defensive player worth a darn last year.
Yeah.
They can put every single point of emphasis on him, and he still led the league in sacks. That's valuable. Now, his value and what the Bengals are willing to pay, I think, are so far off. And I think the Bengals say, hey, we've already got you on a 1-year deal. We like our deal. We make these – when a deal is done, both sides are taking risk. Trey Hendrickson's risk is that if he turns out to be a 20-sack guy, $15 million a year, well, he's getting a little underpaid. And he is. He is getting underpaid. But the Bengals also take the risk in saying, hey, we make this guy a long-term deal. We get him $15 million a year. He might not be worth that at all. And obviously, he's worth way more than that. So it's just risk on both sides. When I look at the Trey Hendrickson thing, what I see is that he thinks I think he probably values way far north of what the Bengals are comfortable giving him. And I don't want to go into what I think would be a good deal. That'll be for another time on this show. There's plenty of months to talk about that because I don't think the deal is going to be done today.
In your perfect world, let me ask you this. I guess for both of you, in your perfect world, when you knew that the Bengals for sure could have brought one or I guess two of three back, Trey, JaMarr, and T,
okay,
who would your two have been?
So this is a good question, and this is what I'll say. Stay with me here because I'm going to give an analogy. My dad coached baseball for a long time. And he told me, if you have an elite shortstop and your third baseman gets hurt, if you have an elite shortstop and elite second baseman and your third baseman gets hurt, and probably the second best third baseman on your team is your shortstop, you don't shift your shortstop to third and your second baseman to short. The reason being, those two positions are already elite. You don't mess with that. You might take some licks at third base, but that just is what it is. And when I look at this Bengals team, I say, all right, so it's pretty clear that the reason that they didn't do what they wanted to do last year in terms of what they were able to accomplish was because of the defensive side of the ball. But I look at the offense and I say, that is a Super Bowl caliber offense. Yeah. Can you remove T. Higgins from it and it's still probably pretty good and you can use that money to help out your defense? Absolutely. But when you have a Super Bowl caliber, what I believe to be a championship caliber offense, you do not mess with that. And that's where this offense still has room to grow, which is crazy. They still need a power back. They still need better guards. They had the worst guard play in the NFL last year, and it was championship caliber on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not messing with it. I'm continuing that same offense. I'm going to continue roll through and even try to improve it if that's even possible. And I'll try to figure out in a different way the defense because that's just where I'm at. So to answer your question, I'd rather have T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase. Casey, a few minutes ago, it looked like you had something on your mind.
To answer your question, I would have had the receiver duo. I'm not messing with the offense. I mean, it's the same argument with you lose Trey, it's still the worst defense out there. You lose out on being able to pay guards, then it's still one of the best offenses out there. It was one of the worst guard duos in the NFL. I think it was the bottom two starting guards in the NFL, Volson and Kappa, that being. So, yeah, I mean, I'm keeping that offense the same. I know what I've got there. And that's just something that you look at, like the Eagles, who have paid everyone on the offensive side of the football and have been able to hit in the draft and make the defense younger. That's just the way you got to do things. The Eagles just let go two of their star D linemen, Milton Williams and Sweat. And we're over here arguing about Trey Hendrickson and what he provides. That's clearly not how you build a Super Bowl winning defense. I mean, you can pay a guy like, if you want to model your game after the Chiefs, you can pay a guy like Chris Jones, and then you got to build the rest of it pretty young. And that's all we're really asking for at this point. Pay Trey Hendrickson whatever amount of money you have left after fixing the guard spot, and then you go from there. Now, whether he agrees to that, who knows? But that's for another time. The Bengals at this moment have a lot of positives. Keeping the band together, 8-4 last year with T in the lineup, and 32-17 all time when the two, that being JaMarr and T, playing together. And like I said before in the other segment, breaking contract structures, becoming a modern day franchise, those are all things that you got to applaud the team for. I was actually surprised that T was less than $30 million, that 28. Yeah. Was not expecting that because he would have probably gotten more than that in the open market. And that means that there was definitely negotiations on both sides getting, a little more here by the guarantees, and we're going to get that fourth year. That means we're going to have a lot of control over both guys for many years to come. And, the fact that they were able to do it at this point makes it to where they can still save the offseason in my mind. This was like bare minimum for me for them to have a successful season.
I agree.
Now they can like really get over the edge here with one really good guard, or maybe two guard signings. Who knows? Maybe it's Brandon Sheriff and like Zadarius Smith, and that's your combo you go into. 1-year deals for both guys, and you feel pretty solid about getting another pass rusher. You feel pretty solid about one of the guard spots, and then you just use the draft to kind of supplement the rest of the needs. Or you go with Tevin Jenkins for a long-term extension. Now the door's open for any of those things, right? Like maybe we do get Tevin Jenkins and it's 2 years guaranteed for his contract and he's here for 4 years. Who knows? I mean, that's now those top-tier free agents in my mind are free game. They have opened Pandora's box, right? And that's something to be very excited about. We'll see what they do here in the near future. But as of right now, very excited that not only did they kind of keep their promise about trying to keep the band together, they've also become, in my eyes now, they are a modern-day franchise. I can stop saying they're not a modern-day franchise. They have closed the book on that. That chapter's over, and we're ready to move on.
You never want to operate under the ruse that more money is coming. You surely don't. Like financially, you never want to do that. That being said, the way that the salary cap has gone the past 4 or 5 years, this feels like a comfortable investment. 3 years ago, $70 million to 2 wide receivers would be absolute lunacy. But the way that the NFL keeps churning out money, keeps generating money, has made this possible.
I mean, how many players around the league have we said that, man, that looks like a steal? Like Tyreek Hill is only being paid $30 million a year. And JaMarr Chase is 40-something. Like it just happens. Over time, these deals end up looking like steals. And the longer that you have these guys, the more time that passes for that to happen. And 4 years for both guys, I mean, that cannot be understated.
Cincinnati Bengals haters famously said after Joe Burrow signed his extension, and this is the final thing I'll say before we go to break, famously said, he better be worth $250 million. The $250 million man, he's now like the 8th highest paid wide quarterback in the league. And he's certainly better than that, better than the 8th quarterback, best quarterback in the league. The Cincinnati Bengals offense shored up that it's going to have elite playmakers for the foreseeable future.